Madam Chair, the meeting is yours.
Okay, thank you. This meeting will now come to order at 6:01 p.m. Madam Clerk, please do a roll call.
Ann Dixon,
Yes.
Jennifer Ludwig,
Yes.
Jamie LeBlanc,
Yes.
Kimberly Shockley,
Yes.
Ed Wazika,
Yes.
Nick Gorham.
You're unmuted now, Nick. You muted yourself.
Oh, geez.
You just muted yourself again, Nick.
I am here,
Excellent.
mostly.
Red with that little line in it when it's
And
muted. Now,
I'm here in every respect except the mute button knowledge.
I extend a warm welcome to members of the public who are joining us on Zoom. Mr. Wazika, how many are on the call with us this evening?
we are joined by a grand total of 21 attendees at this point.
Excellent. Mr. Wazika, who's on the call with us to represent the COVID-19 task force?
We have with us Chief Frank Brown will be representing the task force as well as accepting your proclamation virtually.
Excellent. And who is on the call with us to represent Watershed Solar Development?
We have Russ Mayman and Mike and Greg Lucini will be the three gentlemen that will be giving a presentation on the Solar Shed, Watershed Solar, excuse me.
Do you want to practice that again, Mr. Wazika?
I should have practiced that before the meeting.
Okay, welcome to all. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Members of the council, I'm asked to approve the meeting minutes for December 3rd. I was following Robert's Rules of Order, section 41.9, 41.10, and 41.11, and 41.12. Based on meeting minutes being distributed ahead of time, I've been asked to have a roll call vote, as that is what has usually been done. So the meeting minutes for December 3rd were distributed. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Ludwig. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Ms. Shockley. Are there any corrections?
Yes.
Ms. Ludwig?
President Dixon, I did notice I was misquoted in the December 7th minutes. I've contacted Joanne to please update the word traumatic to dramatic on page 4 of those minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor for the December 3rd meeting minutes right now, so we'll take your correction as soon as we get to December 7th. Thank you. Any corrections for December 3rd? Roll call vote, please.
Ann Dixon,
Yes.
Jennifer Ludwig,
Yes.
Jamie LeBlanc,
Yes.
Kimberly Shockley.
Yes.
Okay, we have 4 yeas, no nays. The motion passes. Now we'll turn our attention to the meeting minutes for December 7th. They were distributed. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Secondly, any corrections? Ms. Ludwig?
Sorry, I jumped the gun earlier. I noted a word correction in a quote on page 4 of traumatic needs to be updated to dramatic, D as in David, and I sent that to Joanne for correction.
Thank you. Any other corrections from any other members of the council? Okay. Roll call vote for the meeting minutes as corrected. Madam Clerk?
Ann Dixon,
Yes.
Jennifer Ludwig,
Yes.
Jamie LeBlanc,
Yes.
Kimberly Shockley.
Yes.
Madam Clerk, in the future, our future packets, meeting minutes should be stamped draft, because draft may be removed once the council approves the minutes, but when we receive the minutes in our packet, they're not approved. So I'd appreciate if you just stamp them draft with some kind of rubber stamp so that all the members know that it is a draft until they are approved during an official meeting, okay? Thank you. Okay, I would like to make an announcement that for item B3, presentation by Mr. David Simmons of the Kent County Water Authority is postponed until the meeting in January. I apologize to members of the public who may have joined us for his presentation, but it will be rescheduled for a meeting in January. Okay, agenda item B1, proclamation for the Coventry COVID-19 Task Force. Mr. Chief Brown, we have a beautiful certificate for you. I don't know if we can see. I don't think this shows up too well, but we have a very nice certificate for you. And I would like to read the proclamation, if I may. Town of Coventry, County of Kent, State of Rhode Island proclamation in recognition of your service to our residents during the global pandemic. Whereas the task force includes law enforcement officers, firefighters, and emergency management professionals, and whereas each day the task force stands ready to aid the community who are in need, often risking their own safety in the performance of their duties, and whereas the task force undergoes extensive training in order to achieve the expertise required to respond to emergency situations, and whereas on December 12, 2020, the task force administered 914 coronavirus tests to the Coventry residents, and whereas the task force has demonstrated outstanding leadership going above and beyond to maintain the welfare of our community. Now therefore, the Town Council of the Town of Coventry hereby extends its appreciation to the Coventry COVID-19 Task Force. Incident Commander Chief Frank Brown, thank you for joining us, Ms. Chief Brown. Also included on the citation are the Anthony Fire Department, Central Coventry Fire Department, Hopkins Hill Fire Department, Western Fire Department, Coventry Police Department, Coventry Emergency Management Agency, for your remarkable service in preparation and dedication to the health and safety of the residents of the town of Coventry. In testimony thereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the town of Coventry to be affixed this 28th day of December 2020. Thank you so much, Chief Brown. I don't know if you can hear the clapping, but it is there.
Yeah.
Would you like to make a few comments, Chief Brown?
I would. Thank you, Madam President. It's certainly, I accept this proclamation on behalf of all the team members. Certainly from the time that we started the COVID-19 task force in February, it's been a team effort of everybody involved, all the players at the table, one concise policy on how we were going to do things from the beginning of this pandemic. And it has shown its value that we have done that all the way through this process. And certainly going forward into the next process where we're going to be vaccinating first responders and then the general public probably in the springtime. So I accept it as the total team. I appreciate Vice President Ludwig coming out to the swab site that day with her children and asking me about the COVID-19 task force. But certainly there's a host of dedicated men and women that are on this task force. And certainly from the onset, our outlook was to look out for the citizens of Coventry. So I thank you all for the proclamation, and I will make sure that the rest of the team gets it. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us this evening. We greatly appreciate all the work that you do for not only the COVID-19 task force, but what you do as a police fire chief, and also the work that you've done for many, many years in our community. It's very well appreciated. So thank you again.
Yeah,
any other comments by members of the council? Ms. Ludwig?
So I'll just echo in the thank you. And like you noted, Chief Brown, I did attend the testing a few weeks ago. Very organized, streamlined process, very professional. The men and women working at the site, extremely knowledgeable, extremely kind with my children. Thank you for your expertise in this area. Thank you for working alongside the number of groups that you mentioned earlier. This is a great effort for Coventry, and it shows the professionalism and the expertise that we have here. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Any other comments? Thank you very much, Chief Brown.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
You're welcome. Good night. We'll now move on to Agenda B2, a presentation on the possible solar array on the former town landfill on Arnold Road remediation site by Watershed Solar Development. Mr. Wazika, would you please reintroduce the members of the team who are here? You're on mute, Mr. Wazika.
Some people might say that's the best I should be, is on mute. I'd like to welcome Russ Mayman, Mike Lucini, and Greg Lucini from Watershed Solar. They're going to be doing a short presentation on the possibility of putting a solar array on top of that landfill. That landfill is nearing completion. I have been in contact with Watershed Solar off and on now for probably about a year or so as this process is going on. One of the things about this landfill and the covering on there, they are very limited number of potential solar providers that can go on this on top of this liner. In fact, my understanding is they are the only ones that are authorized to install without voiding the warranty. And the warranty on this is critical. It's a multi, 20, 30-year process. We cannot risk voiding that warranty or causing damage to that. We could be on the hook for a substantial amount of money. So Watershed Solar is the one company that is authorized to do it. And I'd like to just begin this process with this council by getting a presentation from them on what they can do, how it would be done, and move forward from there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Russ, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much, Ed. Madam President, other town council members, town manager, town solicitor, thank you very much for the opportunity to meet with you tonight and quickly present our potential solar project for your Arnold Road landfill. As Ed said, I'm Russ Mayman. I'm the Director of Business Development for Watershed Solar Development. I have Mike Lucini with me, the Vice President, as well as Greg Lucini, the President of the company. And as Ed said, we've been working with you folks for about a year now, maybe even a little over a year, on the possibility of putting solar on the landfill. First of all, I'll just tell you who we are. Watershed Solar Development is a joint venture between two companies, Watershed Geo, and Watershed Geo is the company that makes the closure turf that is on your landfill, and ISM Solar Group, which is a solar development company out of East Providence, Rhode Island. The two companies came together to specifically develop solar projects on the closure turf projects. So as Ed mentioned, about a year ago, we came to you to get the authority to put an interconnection application with National Grid, kind of to get out in front of the whole process. The process normally takes about 6 to 12 months to get an interconnection application. However, with the saturation of solar projects and wind projects in our area, the Independent System Operator of New England, the group that manages all of the utilities and the transmission lines in New England, has now stepped in, and they've added another layer of study to the whole process. It adds 12 to 18 months to the process. So we put our application in with them over a year ago, expecting to get the results back at the end of this month. There's been a little hiccup. One of the big projects dropped out, so they're restudying, but they promised to have the study back to us by the end of January, early February at the latest. So what will happen at that time, National Grid will then have us engage in the formal interconnection application process with them, and certain things will have to happen like progress payments. So the next step in this whole process is to formalize the lease agreement with the town. And so we are here before you tonight to seek the authority, to grant the authority to the town manager to negotiate with us and enter into a formal lease agreement to lease the top of the landfill. I believe Ed gave you a packet of information. It has a layout that looks something like this, if you have that in your packet.
Yes.
That is an indicative layout which shows just about 6 megawatts of solar on the top of your landfill. And that is a pretty robust system. It's that robust because Watershed Solar Development has developed a proprietary racking system to work with the closure turf. It's a system that grips into the turf without penetrating it, stays in place, has been tested, wind tested, tunnel tested, and it provides a very dense amount of power in a short amount of space. So again, we can get about a 6 megawatt project on that landfill. So again, we are here to answer any questions and hopefully formalize the next step in the process.
Thank you. Mr. Mike Lucini or Mr. Greg Lucini, do you have any other comments you'd like to make?
Hi, thank you. This is Greg Lucini. We appreciate your time tonight. I'd like to ask, is everyone familiar with the landfill? Have you seen it? Have you by any chance driven by it or actually even walked on it?
We have all driven by it because it's on a road that's very heavily traveled.
Sure.
We have not walked on it, but I have discussed with Mr. Wazika today how we might be able to arrange for the town council members to go on it.
So the key thing I'd like to point out is that it's a synthetic turf system where it has a liner, the turf, and then there's a sand infill that makes it a 3-part system. This is very unique. There's nothing else like it in the world. It has now become the favored closure technique for landfills and brownfields all over the country. Every EPA region in the country is now working with these. And we have another site not far from you in Cranston, Rhode Island, where we're actually building an array right now, and we'd be happy to take you up there and show it to you. So you can actually see it coming together. The reason why I asked about if you've seen it is because it is unique, it is synthetic, and there are a lot of patents and a lot of technology around that. It's not just simply, you know, AstroTurf that you might buy at Home Depot. It's much different than that. It's been highly engineered and tested to withstand UV rays for hundreds of years. And it has to be that way because most of these landfills have some nasty things inside that have to stay inside. And the risk is that if that cover is penetrated, if it's damaged in any reason, in any way, then moisture can get in, snow, rain, and that then can lead to what we're trying to contain inside of it leaking out and getting into the water table. So protection of that cover is really important. That's the reason why Watershed Solar Development was formed. As Ed mentioned, Watershed Geo is the developer, designer, and the company that actually sells the closure turf, which is the brand name for that 3-part system. And they were very concerned that if they allowed any developer, any solar developer, or any post-closure use company, solar or whatever, to go on top of their landfill, it could risk damage. And even if the damage wasn't caused by them, their reputation could be harmed. Because then it's in the newspaper that there's been some kind of a contamination leak from a landfill with a closure turf installation, and that brings into question, well, what happened and how? And they really can't afford to be associated with that. That's especially for the reason that one of the investors in Watershed Geo is Berkshire Hathaway. So now you have one of the world's most valuable companies in typically the deepest pockets at any table who would get potentially dragged into a lawsuit if there was a problem with one of their closures. So to solve that, we came together with behind the concept that protecting that landfill is the landfill cap is the #1 priority. Second to that is making sure that solar is done and done right. And there's a lot of emphasis across the country and right here in Rhode Island to build solar on landfills and to repurpose that land as opposed to cutting down forests and trees and building in pristine meadows and other places where people just don't want to see solar panels, but they want the benefit of clean, renewable energy. So this is the perfect place for it. I could go into all kinds of reasons why it's so much better than even just doing a greenfield site. It go beyond just we don't have to cut down any trees. We don't have to bring in soil. There's so many things that we don't have to do. You have to do with a normal closure and a normal landfill cap. So for all those reasons, we came together with Watershed Geo, and we've been working with them for 4 years on proprietary technology and process steps to help ensure that what we're doing is not going to damage that cap and bring any future liabilities to the town or the PRP group. Another interesting fact is that the PRP group, that's the probable responsible parties, they're the groups, the companies that have been identified that most likely originally put the contaminants inside of the landfill. It's many of the same members are also the members of the PRP group at our Cranston site. So it's right off Pontiac Ave. You can see it this time of year from the highway. Many of the same members, we've been through this with them in detail, and we received their approval to move forward with the Cranston site. And as I mentioned, it's basically finished. It'll be coming online in the next few days. So the PRPs who are involved with your project are the same people who are involved in Cranston. So they know us well, they know the product, and they know what we're actually doing. Another thing I'd like to emphasize is that we're not just, even though we're based in Rhode Island, that's really somewhat coincidence. We're doing these sites all over the country. So it's not like there's another watershed solar development in Missouri or California or Texas. We are the only partner working with Watershed Geo on these closures all across the country. So that's why we are comfortable coming to you with the confidence that we can do it right. We can show you a site right here in Rhode Island you can walk on. We can bring you there anytime where it's actually been done. We can give you references, and we really look forward to having the opportunity to work with you.
Thank you so much. Are there members of the council who have questions for either any of the gentlemen? Ms. Ludwig?
So thank you for presenting. So on the Cranston landfill that you've been referencing, I see a page in our packet that talks about the system size, et cetera. This is just slightly larger than half of what we're looking to do on the Coventry site. So is it as simple as almost doubling all the numbers on this page for savings and community impact?
Mike, do you want to take that?
Yeah, is my mic working? I wasn't 100% sure.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, as far as the system size metrics, it is all basically double. You know, it's just a matter of putting more panels. Other than that, the technology doesn't really change. As far as the economic benefits, the taxes collected would be the same on a prorated basis, given that that's set in the state law for property taxes on renewable energy. However, the customer savings would potentially be different, given that that's a community solar project. So it gives a different kind of benefit to residential ratepayers